Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. And with the season just around the corner now, it's time to start introducing the weekly videos that you can expect to see on my channel throughout the season because it's important to be consistent, it's important to be reliable, it's important to make sure you're hammering the important things repeatedly when you're talking about a football team, I think. And this isn't going to be radically different than what we were doing last year, but for those of you who maybe have forgotten or maybe new, I want to go over what you can expect from this channel after every game this year. So, what I like to do is every day during the week, we do at least one scheduled video. Basically, the point of the video will be predetermined. And this is something I've done for a couple years now, and it's worked really well. So I'm going to continue to do it this year. It's basically just an opportunity to talk about some things that I personally think are really important when talking about this Seahawks team. So we're going to start with Monday, because today is Monday. And obviously, by the way, I'll just go ahead and say this now. There are going to be a couple of games where we play on Thursday or Monday, and that's going to obviously mess up the scheduling a little bit. We'll just bump things along. Shouldn't be too hard. So I think you guys kind of understand the flow that we're trying to get into here. And then obviously you're going to have videos about other things that pertain to the Seahawks, but those things are going to be more spontaneous. Those things are going to be unknown until basically it comes time to talk about them sometimes. So this just kind of allows us to have a consistent flow of information about a certain subset of things. So, what are we going to do on Mondays? We're going to talk about snap counts. Snap counts are one of my favorite things. They're one of the most important things, I think, when talking about a football team. Who is getting on the field? How much are they getting on the field for? How are snaps getting split across a positional group? And also, big picture, how many snaps is your offense playing versus your defense? Because if your defense is playing way more snaps than the offense, you probably have a problem. If the offense is playing way more snaps than the defense, that's probably a really good sign. So this chart is going to track all of these things throughout the year for each game. And by the time we get to the end of the season, we'll have a really comprehensive idea of who was actually playing the most for the Seahawks throughout the games. So this spreadsheet right here is for the offense. We have running backs. We got these 4 running backs: Walker, Charbonnet, Dallas, McIntosh. All of them will play at least some running back snaps. And by the way, as the year goes on, we're probably going to add other running backs to this list. Maybe Nick Bellore gets added. Maybe Kobach gets added. Maybe Sir Roderick Thompson Jr. gets added. Maybe somebody we're not even thinking about gets added. Could be a bunch of different guys. As the year goes on, if I need to add more players, I will. If we end up with a 5th running back at some point, welcome to this spreadsheet. And at the top here, we're also going to do total snaps for the whole game for that side of the ball, by the way. That way you can get an idea of the percentage of snaps that player is playing for the offense. And then, of course, the total number of snaps, because part of this is when it comes to most positions, you don't want one player playing too many snaps. If one player is playing too many snaps, he's going to wear down. So you want to mix it up a little bit, and this is a great way to keep track of whether or not your team is doing an effective job of that. We also have wide receivers: Metcalf, Lockett, JSN, Young, and Bobo. Those are going to be the 5 receivers we start with, but you know there's going to be some other players that get involved here. Maybe one of these guys ends up not playing at all. It's possible, right? Maybe they get stashed on IR. Maybe they end up in a situation where there's just never any opportunities for them to play on offense. It happens. So that's certainly a possibility, but these are the 5 I'm going to start with for now. And as the year goes on, we will probably add a few guys. Like, I think that you're very likely to see Cody Thompson get called up for at least a couple of games. But we're going to start with these 5 and see where it goes. Tight end, pretty cut and dry here. We're going to go Noah Fant. We got Will Dissly, and we got Colby Parkinson. Again, maybe Mabry gets involved. Maybe Bear gets involved. If they do, in a real game, playing on the offense, by the way, this is not special teams. Playing on offense, they get added too. Offensive line, now, I don't know how useful the offensive line stuff is going to be this year because we don't have an offensive line rotation. Last year we had that weird rotation with Gabe Jackson and Phil Haynes. This year we don't. So it's very possible that outside of injury, these 5 starters that I have on screen right now, Cross, Lewis, Brown, Haynes, Lucas, all play 100% of the snaps. Now, if somebody gets hurt, of course that changes, but that's not really educational, I don't think. Like, if somebody gets hurt, of course somebody else has to play. Like, that's just common sense. So, I don't know if this is going to be necessarily anything we learn from. Maybe if Haynes is really struggling and we decide to rotate him in and out, that would be interesting. But the backup offensive linemen that I have right now who could get playing time are Forsyth, Olawutimi, Curhan, and Bradford. Might add Greg Island later. We will see. Okay, that's it for the offense. Those are really all the rotational positions. Let's go over to the defense now because we're doing the exact same thing for the defense. Defensive line, obviously Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, Mario Edwards, those are your starters. Rotating your players on the defensive line, very important, by the way. Very important. We make sure that none of these guys gets worn out over the course of a game or a season. Mike Morris, Cam Young, Miles Adams, and then Brian Monet, who might be joining us a little bit late. We'll see. But these are the 7 guys we're starting with. If we add somebody later on, like, maybe there's some free agent out there that isn't even on the team right now that ends up here, then they get added. But right now, these are the 7 we're going to start with and see where it goes. Linebacker. We're going to start with these 5 guys for the moment. Again, it wouldn't shock me if at least one of these guys didn't play at all. Wouldn't shock me if we ended up adding some veteran that I'm not even thinking about right now who ends up taking priority over a guy like Radigan. But I'm just going to put these guys on the list for the moment and see where it goes. Bobby Wagner, Devin Bush, Jordan Brooks, John Radigan, and Vi Jones. So, yeah, we'll see. Again, this isn't a final draft necessarily. It's just kind of a template to show you what the season's going to look like for the snap counts. Edge rusher, we got Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe, Darrell Taylor, Derek Hall, and Tyreek Smith. Seems like a pretty good start to the video series. These are the 5 guys who are definitely going to get to play at least a little bit unless they get hurt. Could definitely see some other guys get involved. For all we know, Bruce Irvin comes back at some point this season because a bunch of people got hurt. But realistically, it's going to be this group of 5 players rotating in and out. Got cornerback, and this one is more interesting for nickel slot corner purposes. 1, you get to see how much your slot corners are playing, and 2, you get to see who's actually playing slot corner. Tariq Woolen, Witherspoon, Mike Jackson, Trey Brown, and Kobe Bryant. Those are going to be the 5 guys to start off, and we'll probably end up introducing one more guy later in the season due to injury. That's just how it goes. And then, of course, safety. Got Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Julian Love, and Jarek Reed II. So we're definitely going to see some interesting stuff here because we know Adams, Diggs, and Love are all going to play significant snaps. Might not be all at safety, but again, it's not really about where you're playing. It's about how much you're playing at the end of the day when you're talking about this. So, let me know what you guys think. This is what you can expect to see throughout the entire season. One thing to note is that snap count data usually doesn't come out until a little later in the day on Monday. So this is probably not going to be a morning video. It's probably going to be an afternoon, maybe even late afternoon video. But it will be coming out on Monday pretty much every single week. See you guys later, and go Hawks.